Welcome to Spirit School. I'm your mentor, Danielle Sarank, also known as the Squamish Medium. In this podcast, I share honestly all I have learned about the mediumship and spiritual development journey. My intention is to normalize these conversations, to make way for a more confident, clear, and connected wave of lightworkers, serving the world of spirit with an open and joyful soul. Welcome again to Spirit School. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Spirit School. I am so excited to be here for another episode with you. These are your February Spirit messages. By the time you listen to this, the initiation will have been started. The initiation 2.0 beta, which is my next level mediumship development experience, starts today. And those spots were definitely taken up by my membership in the Spirit School Collective. So excited to create this new program that is next level mediumship, where we talk about the discernment between psychic and mediumship. We get uncomfortable going deeper into layers of evidence. We talk about group readings, demonstrations, and then of course the back end systems to kind of set up a spiritual practice. So that will be coming out in May as well for the rest of the world. And I can't wait to try running both levels of my programs at one time. I think this will be very stretchy for me. I feel very ready for it and I'm really excited. And we had so many new faces join and new humans join the Spirit School Collective. So lots to celebrate for me. In January, I also got keys to the Spirit School space. And though that is only a week and a half old, I am very excited about opening up Spirit School's first location in Squamish, British Columbia on May 1st. So excited for that. Also, just to let you know, I think we have 2 spaces left for the Sacred Spirit Retreat in British Columbia, which is happening April 17th to 21st. It's going to be a ton of fun. We have some incredible people coming. We're going to be doing, I'm not going to tell you what we're going to be doing, but everything's going to be set up to have incredible spiritual experiences and rest and recharge in the forests and on a lake in British Columbia. I'm so excited. So looking forward to hugging some people in person and meeting some of my clients who have been studying under me for years. And so we'll have links in the show notes to all of those if you want to check them out. And then don't forget about the free Spirit School space. We have a free community that is off social media. We are celebrating over 1,000 people in that space now. And I go live every once in a while. The last episode you got was a very long one. It was based off of a 2-hour Q&A I did in the free space on mediumship development. And I will actually be doing another week-long series, probably in March, and I'm thinking about doing the language of spirit again. So that will be in the free community as well. And yeah, all the fun things, celebrating and trying to get better at celebrating, because I am just somebody who loves to work and continue moving forward. So it's hard for me to stop and take a breath and, celebrate the accomplishments. I'm just so excited to move on to the next thing and like what's coming up next. And yeah, there's just something I get immense joy out of continuing in the creative process and continuing to create and engage. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So January, I had vertigo really bad. So you did have a couple pre-recorded episodes. And of course the Q&A was part of that, because I was dropping my kids off at school one day and I just tipped over like a tower. I lost my sight and I just fell over. And I ended up having vertigo for my first time, which is awful. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. And it lasted for about 9 days. And for about 5 of those days, and it was during, of course, the launch of the initiation and the bundle I offered. Anyone who signed up for a year in the membership got the initiation for free. It was included. So huge savings. First time I've ever done anything like that. And it was wild. So many of you took me up on that. And it's exciting. I just have to say thank you to everyone who trusts me and continues to trust me on the development path. But I couldn't even look at a phone or computer screen for almost a full week. So that was really tricky. And yeah, so I'm celebrating coming out of the end of that. And then I also got strep throat. So lots of stuff coming up in January, but still it was one of the most expansive months of my life and so much positive movement forward. And I think I talked about a few episodes ago how I'm seeing we are usually almost always holding the duality of things going well and things not going well. And I've noticed that before I was aware of that, I ended up leaning into one of those paths. It was like either I was fully aware of what wasn't going well, or I was fully aware of what was going well. And now that I'm aware that we're often holding the duality of both at any given time, I get to kind of choose which one I lean into and when. And sometimes I do feel like leaning into what's not working well and feeling a bit bad for myself and sitting in those feelings that I avoided for so many years. There's beauty in that as well. And then other times leaning into the celebration, leaning into the things that are going really well and allowing myself to feel good. So I would say that kind of summarizes January for me. I don't remember what I said around January. I don't feel like these spirit messages are for me though either. So hopefully you guys all had a good start to the new year and you're feeling really hopeful for 2023. And I feel that what I have to say around February may bring you some inspiration, bring you some hope and clarity on where the world of spirit sees us moving our attention and energy next. So one of the first words that came up for me when I was contemplating and chatting with Spirit in preparation for the recording of these spirit messages, and keep in mind, I usually just start with a word. And then I sit here, and as I move into the recording, things tend to start flowing and I get inspired by the world of spirit on what to say and what to say next. So the first word that I was given was around awareness. And when I was feeling into the word awareness, what was coming out next was this clarity that is coming more now than even a few months ago. I feel like the end of last year was rocky for so many. And I think that there was like a big kind of shaking. And like if we can envision even like a gold pan and how we sift it and we shake it and things fall through cracks, and what's left at the top is gold, is what I'm seeing. And I feel like at the end of 2022, there was almost like this sifting energy and the shaking energy and trying to get the good stuff to come to the top. And so there was a lot of discomfort. There was a lot of unease. There was a lot of maybe falling apart of relationships, of different things that you were putting together, of even for some people, family structures I'm seeing that were having to be uprooted and shaken out so that we can have clarity on moving into this year, how we wanted to live, who we wanted to surround ourselves with, what energy was going to pass the vibe check and what was not. And I feel like January was recovering a little bit from that shaking. And then as we move into February, it feels very much that there's like this new awareness of self. And there's this new heightened awareness about who we are, what we stand for, what standards we're going to be setting up for our own lives. And so there's almost like this beautiful unfolding. I almost see it as like this lotus flower, like really opening up into like thousands of petals. And this opening and this unfolding of inner knowing, like true inner knowing, and not like the inner knowing that is like a resource to be extracted. It's like an inner knowing that we keep to ourselves. It's an inner knowing that feels powerful just in the knowing of who we are, what we stand for, and what we choose to surround ourselves with. And I feel that there is a heightened intuition that comes with this inner knowing, but it's a very sacred inner knowing. It's something that really helps build up a foundation for the inner confidence that I feel like so many have been working towards in the external world through books, through classes, through courses, through podcasts. It's almost like trying to gather this inner confidence, this inner knowing from external sources when spirit has been really shaking up our lives to say, hey, there's nothing left. The illusions are breaking. And now you're kind of seeing and coming into yourself and recognizing like, wow, okay, it really is an inside job. And I've been hearing that for years, and I've been hearing that for my whole journey, but it's finally starting to land for me. And it's like this quiet, and it's this powerful, and it's this undercurrent energy around this inner awareness of the standards that you want to have within your life and your life experience. So it's almost like taking stock as you become more aware. And I feel like this will come up around Valentine's Day. I'm seeing the number 14. You will have this confidence and this clarity around how you're choosing to spend your time and who you're choosing to spend your time with. And it doesn't mean like you have to release everything that doesn't meet your standards, because I feel like there's a lot of people who are out there just living to the standards that society has placed on us, that's saying keeping up with the Joneses. I feel like a lot of us are conditioned in many, many ways and through many generations and many layers to fit into the structure that society has laid out for us. And I feel like a lot of people aren't aware that there is another way, or there is another way of being. So it's almost like waking up to your own personal standards in how you show up and represent yourself in this life from a very sovereign way that almost doesn't even take into consideration what the external standards are. It's like really setting a foundation for what yours are. And some of these relationships that feel, and I'm putting in air quotes, like out of alignment, I feel that even just showing up in your own inner truth, and truth is another word that came up for the month of February, will almost be lighting a path for a new way of potentially being. Now, keep in mind, Spirit uses references for me as I'm doing these. So I'm doing this program. I've been doing it since September. It's a certification program called The Trauma of Money. And I mean, I think a lot of us have different money wounds in life. And of course, our society has decided for us a long time ago that money was the currency that was valued, right? So when we were doing this class last week called Re-envisioning Capitalism, the presenter, who is an international speaker and teaches this internationally at universities through different thought leaders, she was talking about how we don't have to have capitalism, we don't have to have socialism, we don't have to have communism. Like, we could have something else. And what she presented to us was this concept of flourishingism. And it was so beautiful. And it was interesting because I gave an example to her of how I paid my team and how I had my staff set up and how I paid them. And I won't share that as part of this podcast episode. But she said, yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's like you're not paying someone within the construct of capitalism, which is what we thrive within in North America. It's like you're doing it a different way. And I almost didn't even realize at the time how different it was. It's just something that felt good to me. And there was, 150 people in the class, and it was almost like light bulbs going off around the room. We can actually be business owners and entrepreneurs and pay people and have different working hours and have different ways of communicating in a way that doesn't fit within any of the societal norms that we have now. And who knows what ripple effect that conversation will have on the future generations of entrepreneurs. So this is just to say, and it's getting because just naturally a lot of people approach me for different business advice. Can I pick your brain, et cetera, which I've been thinking about this like picking brain saying. And I would love for people, instead of saying pick your brain, if you can maybe present it as like a knowledge exchange, right? When we lean into the law of reciprocity, instead of like this picking brain, this extraction energy, like maybe we can have it be more reciprocal and change the language around it and the energy behind it and just say, hey, can we do a bit of a knowledge exchange? This is what I have to share with you, and this is what I would love to learn from you. And if you're going to be asking people for free things, maybe consider incorporating a bit of reciprocity into it and just see how it feels. Just try it on. Sorry to digress with that, but that kind of came up within this conversation as well. And so when we're doing this work in February and this awareness is being illuminated within us about our own standards, our own way of wanting to show up and exist within this human experience, by just doing it, you're actually becoming a bit of a light beacon, and the people around you who may feel out of alignment, and you don't want to let go of every single person. I know you don't, and you don't have to. It doesn't have to be this or that or all or nothing. But by showing up and honoring your own inner truth and your own inner worth, you're actually giving other people permission to do the same. And what I would encourage you to do, that word's coming up, that re-envisioning, like re-envisioning, it doesn't have to be what you've read. It doesn't have to be what you have seen out there. It can be something totally new and unique. And I know for some people, me included, it's really hard to look at things from like a clean slate, like a blank page. And that's how come the juices really started going for me when this woman was talking about flourishingism, I'm like, that's what I needed. I needed a jumping off point. So my hope is through these spirit messages and what I'm feeling inspired to say is something that could be a starting point for you to re-envision for yourself what that looks like for you moving through your life and moving through 2023, and dare to re-envision it to be completely different than what you have experienced or what you see in the people around you and who you're influenced by. And this leads me to the second word that I was inspired to talk about, which was around this inner truth. I feel like more in the past couple of years, and I have mentioned this on the podcast over the years, but it's become a lot more noisy out there. And I feel like so many people have held things in for so long. And then there was this opportunity and this phase of our being online, especially where we're like, I'm just going to say everything that's on my mind. I'm just going to say everything that I've been holding within. And for a lot of us, that was really overwhelming because I don't think a lot of us were prepared for what people were holding within. And for a lot of other people, they were very inspired and it gave them permission slips, but it did create a bit of divisiveness. And I think a lot of us have probably experienced that over the years, and that's part of our evolution, needed to happen. But now I feel like, again, when we look at that analogy of panning for gold and we're like sifting the sand out and the clay out and the water, and we're just being left with the gold nuggets, the real value that we came for, I feel that a lot of these opinions and insights that have been deep down within people that have been expressed freely and created all this kind of noise and chaos, and in some good ways and other ways not so good, depending on what side of it all you stand on, and there's no judgment here on this podcast around it. It's more about sifting out other people's voice and other people's beliefs and other people's analogies and phrases and terminology, and like really identifying your own inner truth and your own inner truth that is unique for you. And maybe it's a blend of all the different things that you've heard. Maybe it's something that you haven't heard yet, but this inner awareness and this inner truth feels like it's really coming into a settled form in February. And there's so much clarity that comes around that. And there's so much heightened intuition and so much heightened awareness because of the time that you're going to be gifting yourself to think about these things. So Spirit almost shows me, like, if you want to go deeper into these Spirit messages and you want to see how this lands for you or how this plays out for you in this month, instead of like maybe sitting in the power or doing your traditional meditation practice, maybe you sit in spiritual contemplation. Maybe you sit with a phrase. Maybe you sit with the truth that feels like it's coming up, and you write it down and you set an intention with the world of spirit, and you just simply say, thank you for revealing to me my own higher self, my own soul, my own inner wisdom. Thank you for revealing to me what I need to know about this at this time. And then you just let your mind wander and try not to hold on to anything. You try not to judge anything. You try not to create something, and just allow the inspiration to come up and move through you. And then just trust that when you're done this contemplation session, that you will retain and hold on to what you're meant to retain and hold on to at this time. You're not expected to master anything right now. You're not expected to know it all or be in a position to be able to speak about it or teach it clearly. A lot of the things that I talk about, I sit on for sometimes years before I speak about them, because I don't think that when society, it tells us like you need to monetize everything and teach everything that you know, but you can give yourself some grace and space to be able to change your mind, have different beliefs be challenged in a way that shifts and refines what your beliefs and how you want to speak about them are. You are allowed to take that time and space before you share your inner truths. And you're allowed to hold some sacred within yourself as well. And so there is this energy, though, around allowing the spirit world to come around you to inspire you on this, because there's no doubt about it. We are in a time of great divine free will, and the future is still unset. And I talked about that in the 2023 spirit messages, how I wasn't able to see too far in the future because there is so much divine free will at play right now. And every choice we make has an impact, and everybody's choices compound to be greater choices that guide society and where we're going. So this isn't a time to make rash decisions or big pivots. It's a time to sit in the stillness of yourself, trusting your inner wisdom, building the awareness around that, and allowing yourself to be inspired and giving yourself that space and grace to have experiences that may challenge that and may help refine that. I feel very much that the world of spirit trusts us. And I feel that when we're put in a position of trust, that we show up and choose to not do harm and show up with integrity, that we are gifted opportunities and audiences that will listen to us, right? I've seen a lot of people who end up serving out of integrity that don't get booked and don't end up sustaining the path. And the people who really do and do this really deep inner work, I feel like spirit positions us into places where we will have influence because we're trusted in some way. You know, I know so many of you out there want to be able to share all the things that you know. So I feel very much that spirit's just encouraging us to give ourselves a bit more space to figure these things out, see where we land, and really get clear on the intention of the ripple effect that we want to create in the future and for our future selves. You know, this really came really strong to me last year when, after doing years of healing and going back and this inner child work and even the amazing work I was doing with Lynn Technies on the emotion code, all of it's going back. And I think that is so necessary because we can't really pave a path forward until we reconcile the past. Even like with Canadian government, when they were trying to reconcile with Indigenous people, you have to have truth before you can have reconciliation. And I still feel in many levels, we're still actually in that truth phase, though the government's ready to move on to reconciliation. I'm like, no, we're still in the truth finding phase. And so the same thing applies for us in our inner world, where we need to reconcile that truth and come into a level of acceptance of it to heal it. And then we get to get excited about moving forward with clarity and with consciousness. And so I feel that for me, what came up, and I feel so many of you who are listening, it's like, okay, I feel like I've come into acceptance with the past. I've come into acceptance with what was and what has been, and I've done that truth, and I'm working on the reconciliation now, and now I'm ready to envision a new future. And so I found myself asking more than ever before. And it was almost like this mic drop moment that I didn't even realize this was a possibility until later last year. It's like, how will this serve my 80-year-old self? How will this impact my 60-year-old self? And really starting to make decisions that are reflective of the future I desire, not so much the history and the cycles of the past. So as a collective, we are in a cycle breaking opportunity. And if enough of us do not do that work and get clear on the future that we really want, that divine free will, we're going to continue to repeat patterns and cycles that have served some, but not most. And I feel that it does start at an individual level. And so I feel that February is going to be a very powerful month for us to reflect, to sit, to ponder, to wonder, to envision, to re-envision, to reimagine, to redream what we want to see 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 40 years from now. And I also just want to honor the people that this can feel very overwhelming for, who may say, I'm still in the reconciliation, I'm still in the truth. That's okay. That is perfectly okay. We're all going to be moving at our own pace, but it is still worth sitting and contemplating on these things and seeing what inspirations come up for you, and still heightening your awareness and still getting clear on your inner truth. And even when we feel like we have found our inner truth and our inner awareness, there's always going to be new levels and new layers and new expansions to it, because we're human. There's always going to be mysteries for us in this life, and we're never going to be done doing the inner work. Unfortunately, I think that's part of the human experience, as disappointing as that might be for some people. I don't want you to chase an illusion, a ghost, a finish line that just doesn't exist. And so if we can see this journey as being one that continuously expands, continuously evolves, I think a lot of us will start to feel a lot more contentment and start making decisions from that content place. So I hope that this helps. And I just want you to know that the last thing that Spirit shows me, and I can't leave this episode, and I know it's a short one, it's just how it goes sometimes, but they're celebrating us so hard. I wish that you could see what I see and feel what I feel when it comes to the celebration that the world of spirit has with us. I don't remember where I said this or where it was, but I'm seeing the same vision I saw a couple months ago, where literally rooting us on and celebrating us and just celebrating our courage for coming in during this time and being part of the big shifts and the big changes that is being asked of us as humanity, living on this rock, catapulting through Earth at mind-blowing speeds, celebrating the bravery and the courage and the dedication, the devotion to spiritual evolution that it takes to volunteer to come down here. And if you can sit in that awareness that we are being celebrated, I feel very much that you will be gifted an experience where you will be able to feel that and allow yourself to be overwhelmed with that love and that divine support. I love that saying, that phrase, if you knew who surrounded you, would not be afraid. And that very much resonates with what I am seeing from the world of spirit right now. So I'm celebrating you. I'm celebrating me. I hope that these spirit messages land for you today and for this month. I hope to see you in Spirit School. And if not, I will see you on the next episode of Spirit School, the podcast. Have a good month, my friends. Did you know that Spirit School is not just a podcast? It's an actual school. If you go to myspiritschool.com, you can invest in self-study courses, live programs, and of course the Spirit School Collective, my baby, my monthly membership community. All Spirit School offerings are intended to get you feeling clear, confident, and connected to your spiritual path, your development journey, and of course, connected to other spiritual curious souls who are having similar experiences to you. I hope to see you in Spirit School.